Let's head to theatre now to hear about the upcoming show called Take Me to Town. The play, taking place at the Joburg Theatre from the 14th to the 17th of this month, is centered around a fictional town of Zikhali Municipality. To tell us a bit more about this, I'm joined in studio by actors Lotanang Makati as well as Kopano Mashike, along with Thabiso Rammala, who is a writer and director. A pleasure to have you all in studio to tell us a bit more about this exciting piece that's expected to show soon. Thabiso, I'll start with you as the director and writer of this play. What themes did you really touch on, and what inspired the play?
Thank you for having us. So the play is quite based on the preservation of human life, that we haven't really scrutinized what is happening in Sudan, Congo, Ukraine, and what would happen if the war would escalate to nuclear bombing, and what would happen to the air, to water, and what happens when people who are suffering are going through and we're not doing anything about that. So when someone is feeling pain from Congo, and for the likes of you reporting, doesn't necessarily that I don't catch fire. And in that, I had dealt with the traumas that come with that, the traumas also that came with the pandemic, surviving that, and that had been a inciting incident for me to be able to put down the play and write about it. But it's really based on love, and also that what happens when now people are separated or displaced during the times of war, and what do they really lose. And that came a passion in me, and I wanted to put it down in that, and I articulated it more in my writing.
So Lotanang, you play the protagonist, Kawe.
Yes.
Tell us a bit more about this role and what attracted you to it.
Okay, so the role of Kawe, because we are in a state of emergency, so to speak, a state of emergency on the part of the people of the community themselves, having to respond to power and the decision that they make, the decisions that they make, particularly in relation to power. So Kawe goes through a journey where he is basically having to fight. He's basically forced into the corner in joining the fight against oppressive rule. Whereas at first he was indifferent, and that sort of transition is something that resonates very deeply with me, and what I think the struggle for liberation generally would be, especially in a space where the world feels very post-apocalyptic, and there is a need for an uprising in the world of Zikhali. So Kawe, I connected very well with the character, and as well with assistance from the director and the guidance of the team that is there, the pool of actors. We managed to find textures for these characters that are very beautiful to sort of get in touch with.
Kopano, the rose amongst the thorns. Let me bring you in as well into the conversation. Speak to us about the role that you play in this ensemble and how you prepared for it.
Oh, so we're still in preparation, first of all. You know, I think we stop preparing when we get on stage. But I play the character of the capital, whose name is Magukanya Mabaso. And she's the lady who is in charge of all of this, right? So I was speaking to my director not so long ago about how I look at the story. For me to understand it as an actor, I had to look at the story and compare it to the political landscape in South Africa now, right? My understanding of all of this is that we're telling a story about people who are forcefully removed from a place that they belong in, and they put into these shafts, and water is a problem, coal is a commodity, and people are really just fighting for their lives. And I am, the capital. I'm the one who sets down these rules and tells these people how to live, what's going to happen, and so she is quite the villain. It is the first time I'm playing a villain, in my career.
Right.
And it's tough, because I think there's color to a villain. It's not that just the straight, one-sided character who's just mean, but there's a story behind why she is this tough, why is she doing what she's doing. So we're finding her, we're finding the colors, and I think everyone just has to come and watch the show. you know.
It's absolutely amazing. Thabiso, I want to take from what Kopano has said, and that's some of the themes that will be touched on in this play. I think it is quite appropriate, especially when considering that we are heading to general elections on the 29th of May. Why does a story like this, or a narrative like this, matter at a time like now?
So in a place, or in South African political atmosphere right now, it is a sense that we are really not sure what's going on. Like, we don't know what the results will be, because we also have not been satisfied as a country. But at the same time, we are saying that then we are human beings. With or without politics, we still have our own struggles that we need to deal with. We still have our own struggles that we need to face and conquer. And when we're coming to these elections coming forth, we are merely saying that let's be cognizant and be aware of who do we put in power, who's the person who's going to be trying, at least attempting to solve or resolve the problem. So that's what I'm based in the things on. Yes.
Kawe, you're a young person in the arts, in theatre to be precise. Tell us, why is it so important for us to tell our own stories, like what Thabiso has just mentioned now?
I think it's absolutely imperative that people should have a sense of letting out, or spaces where you are given spaces where you're given the time to speak about things that are happening internally and your observation of the world. I feel like the world as it is the world is built by the people that are within the world itself, right? So that being the case, what needs to happen is that every single person has a narrative to contribute. And as a young person in the arts, I believe that I am playing my part, no matter how small the role is of an artist within context of what it means to even exist in the world. But the sense of freedom that one has that has been afforded to us to speak, to write, to think, to reflect is something that is very precious, and that I think everybody should make use of, because it would be such a disaster if our ideas were suppressed, and because we are given that space to sort of speak, we need to use it as much as possible. So that we also play a part in building the world that we would like to see as young people.
In extension to that, I mean, let's speak about the role, especially of young women, black women to be precise, in the arts. How imperative is it for them to be active, call them stakeholders, especially in the arts and theatre as well?
Sure, it's very, very important. Because I think every single black woman has a story that deserves to be heard, that deserves to be known. And it's our responsibility to make sure that those things happen, you know. And putting aside the politics of the industry in which we work in, it is extremely important. So if you are a young girl out there and you have a story and you're writing a story, write the story, develop the story, you know. It's there. Every single thing we need is there. It's not as easy to get there, but I think we start somewhere, and you start by making sure that your idea doesn't just reside in your head, because I think we do that a lot as artists. You know, it's an imposter syndrome thing. And but if you have a story, put the story out there. It's important. We need a female voice, you know. Men have been running this industry for quite some time, you know, and sometimes things get a little bit tricky. But I think the time is now. For every single woman, the time is now. Our voices are important. Our stories are important. And as much as our stories are the same, they're so nuanced, you know. So, yeah, it's extremely important.
But what do you hope people will take from this play?
Time to introspect, you know, especially approaching the elections. And I'm not just basing it around that, but I think it's such an important theme, you know. It's time to introspect. It's time to look at ourselves as black people and ask the hard questions. Why aren't we fighting? Why are we okay with just, you know, We just walk in the straight line. This is what's happening today, guys, and that's what we follow. You know what I mean? Load shedding is a thing, and we're doing nothing about it. But what is our contribution to the South Africa that we want to see, the South Africa that we want to live in, the South Africa that we want our children to still be able to reap, you know, whatever it is that we've been fighting for. So I think that's what it's about for me. It's time for us as young black people to sit down and self-introspect and really think about what we want and what is our contribution to getting there.
Thabiso, as we wrap up, I might get into a bit of trouble for this. I'm going to give you a free plug. Give us details of where people can get tickets. When is the play happening as well?
The play is happening from the 14th of March until the 17th, which is this month. We can get your tickets from Web Ticket. The prices are $150. The Joburg Theatre. The play is called Take Me to Town.
Thank you so much for joining us in studio. Those are our guests, Lotanang, Makati, Kopano, Mashike, as well as Thabiso Rammala, for sharing insights into this upcoming production, Take Me to Town.